I'm Megan Elias. I'm the Director of Food Studies Programs at Boston University, and I'm also the author of a history of American cookbooks, which is called Food on the Page. We have a large cookbook library where I work. Every time you pull a cookbook off the shelf, you get into many worlds. Where did the things come from? Why are people saying to do it this way? And what are their tastes and their expectations of food? There's just so much in every one. I'm looking at a bunch of these beautiful, beautiful old books. Each one has a really nice feel to it. This one I just was so drawn to immediately because of its littleness. A new collection of genuine receipts for the preparation and execution of curious arts and interesting experiments. So it's already kind of very useful, but very playful, even in its conception. It has recipes for food, but also for dyeing clothes. And it has a whole section on health too, which is something that I'm particularly interested in. How to take care of sick people was a really big concern in older cookbooks. Most people were taken care of at home. So home healthcare was healthcare. Every kind of care that people received came out of little books like this. So if you're a young woman starting out, you've just got married, you've just had some children, you're running a household, it's really daunting. There's a lot to do, but to know I can get it all in here. I can just put this in my, my apron pocket. It makes you feel like you've got it under control. So just to give an example of something astringent for the teeth, so ways to clean your teeth. There's a lot usually about indigestion. So that tells you something about the cooking of this period too. Probably now would be things you'd treat with like Tums in the middle of the 19th century. You treated them mostly with foods. So with things like beef tea, toast water, sometimes chocolate. There's a recipe in one of these cookbooks for chocolate as a treatment. This thinking about all the kinds of work that a woman who ran a household had to do is really also shown beautifully in this book. This might be the oldest one. It is The Housekeeper's Instructor or Universal Family Cook. Just looking at this front page, you think, wow, there's a lot of work to this running of a household. A lot of physical work, a lot of mental work. There's this wonderful picture in the front that's of a working kitchen. Looks like it's in a large house. It's got a large staff. It shows where everything is stored and everybody's working on something. You can see that both men and women worked alongside each other in a kitchen. And that's really interesting because really until the 20th century, labor was really divided by gender. I can make wine, I can make candy, any kind of animal that comes into my kitchen, a pigeon, a pheasant, I'll know what to do with because it's all right here. And of course that tells us in 2025 that people could expect those kinds of things. Just so much variety of ways of doing things and a lot of using every bit of something, because remember, this is a time before refrigeration. In contemporary culture, when we start thinking about the huge problem of food waste, these are actually great places to turn. And then this one is a little bit later. This is a Presbyterian cookbook, which means it was created by a bunch of women from a Presbyterian church, in this case one in Dayton, Ohio. This is a fairly well-known book. It's from 1876 and it has been digitized. It's a collection of recipes from, for the most part, upper middle class women who were trying to raise money for their local community. The book has this great endorsement in the front from Marion Harland, who is already well known as a cookbook writer. It's just one of these books that's organized by substance. And what that means is that the authors assume that the reader has the same kind of stuff available to her, usually, that the writers do. So everybody has chickens, so everybody needs to know how to cook chickens. So when you look through this, when you look at like the meat section, what is meat? You get an idea of how, kind of where they are. So this one is probably going to be pretty genteel meats. Sometimes you find books that have a lot of wild meats in them, game you would say, but that include squirrels and raccoons and skunks even. It also has this super great feature throughout. There are these blank pages. And that is this wonderful invitation from the authors to the reader to join them, right? Your recipe is just as good as our recipe. And that's such a lovely thing for an author to say, right? Your story matters just as much as my story. As much as the women who made this book valued their own recipes, they knew that the women who were reading it also valued their recipes. And value is a really important word. For women of the 19th century in the US, cooking was what they had to have happen. A recipe that you can rely on, that's going to get you a family that doesn't complain. That is a thing that actually has value in a woman's life. And then, of course, emotional ties too, right? So you just love this recipe because it's been passed down from woman to woman in your family. And in this book, we can see there are quite a lot of stains that show us whoever owned it did engage with this book. And that's also kind of a really special thing to see. I don't see it in this kind of encyclopedia, this beautiful encyclopedia, but this one looks like it was more put to use. And it has things like lemon turnovers, which are kind of a slightly more fancy thing that you might serve to your women friends when they came over. And then corn batter cakes, which are really practical, just the kind of thing that you throw together for breakfast any day. Spanish fritters, a slightly more fancy. There's a lot of stain around the cake pages, which just makes you think whoever owned this book, I would love to cook with her. And I hope that you'll support MOFAD, which is a one-of-a-kind institution and so important to our understanding of everything about our culture.